this meeting to order, and is there a motion to accept the minutes from September 5th and warrants 5A, which we'll ratify, 6P, and RB1?
I'll move.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And do we have no one for public comments, I guess, so we'll move right on to Rick Davis. You want to come up? So, I sent you an email last week asking you to come, and that was after Tom and I went to the VSAP meeting. And while I was sitting there, Rich Cogliano had looked at my plan and said, "Oh, that's the old plan." And I gave Rick a new plan a couple of weeks ago. And my reaction was, "A couple of weeks? How come we didn't know about it?" And then you cleared it up the next day, and Rich maybe thought about it more and agreed that maybe it had only been a couple days since he'd given it to you. But in that time, so I'm glad that it was only a couple days.
Right. And it was also just the supplemental.
Right, it was just minor changes to the items.
Yeah, we weren't actually given that plan until that Friday when we met upstairs. That's when they brought in the four.
Well, that plan, the full
new plan, bound
right.
plan. Yeah.
Those, I brought those in because Richard told me that Zeke's plan hadn't been updated correctly, or there was some missing, so I asked for 4 complete plans. Mm-hmm. It's the same plan, just with the updates.
Mm-hmm. And what you had handed us in the smaller supplement was just the updated stuff.
Yeah, that was what he called the new plan.
Right.
But it was just some minor updates.
Yeah. And I have not had a minute to go through that, and I figure now that we've met with VEM people on Friday, and if you'd like, Rick and I could fill you on the board in on how that went, but I don't think there's really a fire burning under us doing a full review of that plan again now at this point, unless the board disagrees. I mean, I don't think it's something we have to talk at detail tonight, being as none of us have read it.
Actually, I've read it.
Oh yeah, well of course, yeah. Well, if you want to talk about what's fresh in your head,
why don't you go ahead and give us the update of the meeting?
It was a good meeting. I felt much better, Zeke, after, just to catch you up, Zeke and I went to the meeting down in Vernon with the VSNAP people taking testimony, and we had a bit of a public disagreement with the people from FEMA and Vermont Emergency Management, where they were talking about our letter that we wrote a year ago, and the board, Elizabeth Miller, their chair, and members of the panel, of the public safety board, is it public safety board?
Advisory board.
Advisory board, for asking the FEMA guy and the Vermont Emergency Management guy questions directly about our letter, and they were essentially deferring it back to us and saying, well, who knows why towns don't sign these things, and a lot of times they just don't want to take responsibility for these things. And Zeke and I were trying to keep our heads from exploding out there in the audience when finally they recognized us. Jim Matto, the former guy from Wyndham Region, recognizes, pointed us out to the chair and allowed me to speak and answer to it. And I gave them another thing they said is, well, we don't know why Dummerston didn't bring these concerns to us sooner, and why they had to bring it out here rather than bring it directly to us, or we would have addressed them sooner. And so I, obviously disagreed with that assessment, and spoke at some length about what our experience had been supporting the claims we made in the letter, and all that was well and good. And then they asked to meet with Rick and me, and Larry came. And so it was Peter Coffey, who's the acting director of Vermont Emergency Management, and John Angel, who we met here, and Rich Cagliano. We started with, that was embarrassing for everybody on Monday. Let's move beyond it. And they went on, and Rich, did that memo get in our packet about the memo that Rich wrote addressing
No.
all of our? Oh, no.
Recall that.
I've got a copy of it.
You? Can you make a copy of that? He went through point by point of our concerns, and then we discussed at length that our complaint is basically that we see our plan as sort of failing in the midst of what's probably actually going to happen. They express, and jump in if I've misremembered any of this, Rick. There is an area-wide plan, and they think in an area-wide basis. Our little part of it is kind of all we see, and like the ideas of traffic control and routes and all that, they understand that the sheriffs and the state troopers know exactly where they're supposed to go for control points when this happens. That's not necessarily illuminated in our plan. It makes it look as if we have to do some of this stuff, which is actually being done. And the same thing with the evacuation centers and all this. We are just sort of one cog in a much larger wheel, which includes 3 states, but 20 towns or something like that.
Yeah.
And so what we came to at the end of it, just to summarize the whole thing, was what they need to do is to let towns like Dummerston and everyone else in the EPZ know better where we fit into the big picture. Because it looks like we have our own little kingdom there in these emergencies, and the drills we're acting alone. We kind of hear things on the radio, but we feel like we're very independent and self-sustaining, if you will, or self-failing. That's not the case at all. So what we asked them to do is to organize some sort of a presentation where all of the emergency management directors in the EPZ, any other interested officials or what have you can attend and see what the area-wide plan is. At the end of that meeting, I felt much better about our plan and how it fits into it, and that it isn't, just because now I understand it isn't working in isolation. The origins of it, which Peter made in one comment, I found interesting. He said particularly in Vermont, there's a great need for local control. I mean, we really want that in Vermont. That's the way our government is set up. So they recognize that, and they try to be sensitive to the fact that towns want their own plans, they want their own tools to deal with emergencies. At the same time, they understand that this is going to be an area-wide emergency. And so they're trying to have a foot in both worlds, where they're planning on a macro scale, but they're allowing towns to have as much autonomy as they can. And it isn't always perfect. And now that I kind of get that concept, I'm a lot more comfortable, I think, with the way I see that Vermont Emergency Management is thinking and making their plans. And I will read through now our new plan with sort of a different perspective on than I have in the past. So I felt a lot better about it afterwards, and it ended very cordially, and like I say, I just feel better about it.
Well said.
What was there was a next step with that?
They were going to get us a general overview, like you said. I don't know if it's going to be it would be nice to have a large presentation for all the towns and those interested to attend. But the main thing was we're going to get the overview of how everything is going to work. Before, we didn't realize that. One of the things we brought up was having everyone on the west side go over to the east side and get on 91. That's not how works. That's how it reads. That's not how it works. We're going to direct them. Basically, we're going to keep everybody on the west side of the river, and shoot them up Route 30 to 35 to 103 over to Bellas Falls. The state admitted they hadn't thought that out very well as far as notifying the towns who are going to be affected by the additional traffic, and they're going to work on that. And another point that wasn't really laid out in the plan is they are going to stop traffic at the Mass border and up in White River Junction area, and use both lanes, or all 4 lanes of 91 to get people out of the area. So we're not just trying to crowd onto 2 lanes fighting other traffic. We're blowing out of the area with 4 lanes. And another point that was brought up was the early dismissal of school, which reading it in the plan was a little confusing. What they're going to do is, and this is being written into the new plan, they're doing an early release at the first sign of any type of danger. All of our students in Dummerston will be transported to Leland and Gray, where the parents can pick them up. If any parents show up ahead of time, they can pick them up. We're going to work on some type of roster and sign-out sheet for the school to have, so they can keep track of the kids, who goes with who, and who's allowed to pick up the neighbors' kids, and why not. Those were 2 major items that they covered, which made me feel better.
That'd be a huge improvement if parents are able to pick their student up.
Yeah, and apparently that was always the case, and that in the school's plan, it is illustrated, but not...
We're going to take a roster made already.
Right, and we talked about there possibly being at the, as most school years start, you sign who's allowed to pick up your kids, and that they could have another sheet in a case of emergency, who would be allowed to take your children.
Just received those this week.
Yeah.
It's a sheet of paper. It says who can go in their own car, who must go on the bus. And that's entirely up to the family. And many students don't pay real strict attention to that. And therefore, they say, what do you mean I have to get on the bus? I'm going with Joe. Well, you can't. Here's the list. So once they find that out, which is ex post facto, many of them try to make an adjustment. Even though it's pointed out very early, first, second day of school. But we have those lists earlier than we've ever had them.
And another thing that comforted me, because we'd always complain that these disasters and the drills unfold very sort of methodically and in slow motion, and
they go very well.
Right, they go well, and they're slow burning. And they said, actually, those are tightly compressed from what a reality would be. He says, we complain that we are forced because people's lives, we have to condense these drills down into a set period of time. And they use Fukushima as an example, where even a disaster of that scale, with that earthquake and all of that the area within 20 miles of there they had 12 hours notice of evacuation before there was any radiation released at all. And then it was evacuated to like a 60-mile radius within 20 hours of that before they lost AC power and the reactors started to melt down or whatever they did. And that's a fast, and Chernobyl he didn't use that example, but I was curious about that, and I looked that up too, and the rate of progression of these calamities is quite slow. I mean, the kids are moved, the precautionary transfer they call it, when there's an alert, which can be almost nothing. I mean, it's like the first sign of, there could be trouble, even before there's any trouble, even internally. The kids are moved. So the idea that this is going to even unfold as quickly as we do in our drills is really pretty remote. So I was comforted by that too, that this will probably be a days long,
Right.
even if there's a major disaster at Yankee, it will take days for it to unfold before there was actually any environmental danger to be avoided, that we're going to have lots of time to move people, shelter people, whatever it is they ask us to do. So it was a perspective that I'm amazed it's taken us this long to get, but maybe it just takes what it takes. I think part of it is we didn't know what we didn't know. Is really what it came down to.
Okay, I've got a list of things. There's some inconsistency about who gets notified in unusual events. In some places it shows the select board chair getting notified, and others it doesn't. And so that's inconsistent throughout. So what I think I should do is just write these notes up more legibly, and then I'll give them to you. And,
Okay.
one of the things, the list of farms, and I don't know if you want to assign that to your assistant or whatever, but the list of farms or people that might want to come back and take care of livestock is out of date and hasn't been updated in several years, I think. So another issue was someone called me, what's the plan for people with pets? They're worried that people with pets aren't going to, if there's an evacuation order, they're not going to leave Boopsie behind. So they wanted to see what the plan for that was.
Didn't that come up in our?
Yeah, and actually, I just spent the last 2 days at the Vermont Emergency Preparedness Conference and took some classes there that were pretty enlightening. But if I can answer them quickly, I'll answer your questions. In the unusual event, I notify the head of the select board and the school principal.
Right.
And that's it. In the alert, everybody gets notified, the EOC gets staffed, and we ramp up from there. Second question on farms, that's on my to-do list. Third question with pets. We're getting closer to an answer on that. I took one of the classes I took was, what was it? Disaster Shelter Initiative. And I talked with the Red Cross, and they've got a program that just started where they are going to outfit, they're going to check out these buildings we want to use as shelters. And if they agree with it, they're going to give us cots to keep there and water and different kits. And I asked them about sheltering animals. In the past, I've been told if it was a Red Cross shelter, you couldn't have animals in the same building. And what I was told was that's not necessarily true. I'm going to be meeting with Bruce Pollock. We're going to look at the West School, see what we can do about that with having that as a Red Cross certified shelter with pets available, being able to put some pets downstairs. The only pets that they allow in these shelters are dogs and cats. No reptiles, birds, nothing exotic, mainly because of the diseases that can be transferred between the more exotic animals. Another thing I found out yesterday was there are, and I can't remember if it was 2 or 4 mobile pet shelters that are stationed around the state. So if there is a drawn-out emergency, they can be brought to an area to house pets. That's all I found out on that so far. But it's looking better and better as far as being able to tell people, grab your cat, your dog, come over to so-and-so shelter and, we can take care of them, or you can take care of them there. And as that unfolds, I'd like to start doing an article for the views, touching base on some of these things. If we get the go-ahead for the old West School, start getting some donations for collapsible crates, anything that can help out. But that's what I have in the works. It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to happen overnight. It may be 2 years before everything's said and done and we're up and running over there.
Rick, one thing you may want to check. I read somewhere that historically registered buildings can be used as emergency shelters.
Oh, really?
So you might want to check with them just before you spend too much energy.
Wow, good homework.
Okay. No, that'll put a damper on it.
Yeah.
All right,
You
the
just
only
have to
other
bring it to
thing,
your house. You get a
There you
big
go.
burn.
Yeah.
the other big thing, on the staff notification, Steve Glaybeck isn't listed.
I just updated the basic emergency operation plan,
Okay.
so you're on there.
Yeah, I haven't been notified of anything yet, so.
Uh,
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but.
yeah, no, that's the first thing I saw. You weren't on the list.
Yeah, we just did.
Yeah.
So, well, any other comments, questions for Rick while we have him here? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sometime in the next few meetings, I'd like to go over the National Incident Management System. I touched base on it very briefly the last meeting. I'd like to give you a more in-depth of what it is, what we're expected to do. Has Dummerston adopted that as formally as their management system for an emergency?
Didn't we have to?
You did a long time ago.
That's when we had to go through that first round of certification stuff
Yeah.
about 3-4 years
Okay,
ago.
so that's done. So now we just have to get the required training done.
Well, and Lori informed me to stop complaining that it really wasn't that bad. She took the online course, and it doesn't take very long.
About
It's
40 minutes or
not
so.
that big a deal.
It's
So,
really not.
Yeah.
so maybe if you can give us like a website and some basic directions, maybe we can pick it up at Catch as Catch Can and get that done. So
Well, if you want to do it, I can call Lisa Stark and have one
I think
set up
she's the one who I dealt with.
especially for.
oh, it's not something that's just living out there online. It's like you got
There
to
are times when it comes up,
I see.
and it's kind of a first come, first serve.
I see.
But I can set something up with her so it can be for us.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean,
And you can do
find
it
the
at home.
time. Better make it 6 o'clock on Wednesday night. It's the only time we know we can all get together.
Well, I think you can join it from home. It was a webinar that handled
Yeah.
it. And then they
Yeah.
had technical difficulties, so it stopped, and then they emailed us the link, so we got to do it at our own leisure.
Oh yeah. So let's do that. How'd you-
Yeah, let's do that again.
All right,
So that's it.
thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Well, do you have any updates on the gravel pit?
Yes, we had our DRB hearing last night, well, the second part of it, and the hearing was closed. I thought it went very well. There were a lot of questions from the panel on traffic control, or not traffic case, I'm still in the RERP, truck traffic, truck trips. The noise study, which was still not completed, which was of great chagrin to everyone on our team, that this was a very hard deadline that we gave the sound study engineer, and he's missed it. Corey was not happy. So we have the study, we just don't have like his summation and certification of it. So that needs to be there. All the other paperwork was handed in, and the neighbor committee that was here were very complimentary to our process. They felt that their concerns had been addressed. and they were satisfied, and they let the board know that they felt comfortable with what we were asking, and so I think that was a huge piece of it there. So I see that they were just over in the historical thing deliberating. I couldn't tell by their faces what. Is that Herb over
Was
there?
there smoke from the chimney?
So anyway, we should be getting a written determination here, a week or two, I see.
Okay.
So anyway, fingers crossed. No news yet on the Act 250 hearing when that might take place. So.
Okay. Steve, you have anything to add to that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Any other questions? or
Oh
comments?
wait, can we back up? Yeah, there was. Of course, I didn't bring that note. The DRB did us a favor. They were looking at our lease agreement with Renault Gravel. We modeled it after our lease with the Carpenter Pit, where we actually leased the entire property. That's how we wrote up the lease with Renault as well. But we're not leasing the entire property. We're only leasing the gravel area. So the DRB's question is, where does the liability and the responsibility of the town start and stop? Like, does that make us responsible for the campers? And that excellent point that everyone missed. Though it has no determination on their hearing, I said that's definitely a matter for the select board and our attorney and Mike and his attorney. Mike agreed that needs to be fixed. So I think it's just a matter of language where we have to change it from the leased premises to the gravel area or the pit activity. We'll let Bob Fisher play with language that'll work. So that was a good catch by our DRB, I thought.
So, correspondence for information. Anyone have anything there that we need to discuss, want to discuss?
Not there, but there's one not listed. For the second time, we've received communication from this fellow who's trying to get the rail service from Brattleboro to St. Albans, wanting select. Am I the only one getting on?
I didn't see it.
I haven't seen that.
it.
That's
You
why
don't
it's not
know
on
it
the
is?
agenda.
Why am I
Steve,
getting
have
it?
you seen it?
You
He's seen it? No, I haven't seen it. That was news to me.
You're a lucky day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, he's looking for groups like select boards to be supportive of public transportation, specifically rail service from Brattleboro to St. Albans. And it lists a number of reasons why it would be a good thing. It's a little overbearing the way it's written, but it's probably a good idea, and I would see no reason why, personally, I'm speaking for the board, but why we might not support something like that. So I will forward this. I just assumed it was coming to everybody, and because it came to me for the second time and wasn't on here, I was a little surprised. So
Okay,
I'll send it out.
great. Okay,
Maybe next meeting.
yeah. Have it
Okay.
to look at next time. Correspondence for discussion or action, could I have everyone looked at the covered bridge grant paperwork? And could I have a motion to sign that?
I would like to move that we sign the Covered Bridge grant paperwork so that we can pay our contractor.
I'll second that.
Have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one's opposed, so we'll go ahead and sign that, get it out. Let's see, any other business there that we'd like to bring up and discuss right now?
Lewis spoke to me about the community center and the library thing. He'd like to. What he asked is if that comes up tonight, see if we could table it till he's here, because he's kind of been the go-between on that, and he'd like to be involved with the discussion.
I think that's a good idea. He's been to some of their meetings and
Yeah,
discussions,
yeah.
so that'd be helpful to have him here, I think.
Yeah.
So, and what else do we have on that list? Well, there's going to be anyone busy the 26th of this month? Want to go to the
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday? Invitation from Rescue, member towns. We'll just leave that open.
Okay, yeah. Just,
See who wants to go.
I don't want to hog anybody else's spot
Yeah.
there.
This is preparatory to the 2 to 2.5% increase
Isn't
in the budget.
Isn't that Harold
Yeah, I
Mills'
think-
job?
I bet we could count on Harold to give us an
Were
update.
we going to discuss something else that was...
That sounds like a job for the Rescue Inc. representative.
Yes, yes, I think so. Or the most junior member of the select board, as we.
I think I've already, I got something going in October.
yeah, I'm busy in October.
Let me say that I will cover if Harold does not.
All right, that is.
Fair enough?
That's a.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
an if.
That's good.
That's an if.
My calendar says that's Nancy's birthday. I have no idea who Nancy is. But it's her birthday.
My calendar says the same thing. Well, let's move on then. How's the Ancient Roads update going?
I don't know about the update, but the work is flying, actually. We're doing very, very well.
Okay.
We have one enormously eager committee, and they've been out, and they've searched records, and we've scratched a road off. One of our major concerns with documentation, going back to 1853.
Which one's that?
Let me check my list, because we have several. It's,
And that's when that was given up, that we know of?
it's Falls Brook Road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which dissolves into a couple of trails, which brings up another issue, which really isn't necessarily our purview with this project, but the current map only shows modern trails. And there are trails on the ancient maps, previous maps, that show trails that are still trails, but they're not on the new map, which means, I guess technically, that we could get to the situation where if we don't put them on as trails, there's no maintenance for the town, no cost to the town. But if you were to decide you wanted to go snowshoeing on a town trail, you might run into problems with a landowner if we don't put those trails on the map. So, do we give up the trails that aren't on the most modern map, or do we reassert the trails from previous maps? Because the trails are still there, they're just not on the map.
But just because they're on the map doesn't mean they're town trails, though, right? It just means there's...
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think that's what you were saying, is unless we add them to the town's highway map as trails, then they're technically not.
Right.
We're absolutely giving them away.
And we can't add them unless we can find documentation that there's somehow a town established.
And we have enough people on this committee who are interested enough in those anyway, so that that's going to happen. And we'll have to decide, I suppose, ultimately, on that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
I don't know what else, really. That's probably under new business, so I'll hold off on that. But it is connected to ancient roads.
All right. Okay. Anything to add to that, Steve?
No, I missed the meeting tonight, so.
Okay. Schedule.
So noted. You left me alone with those.
So, site visit to the covered bridge, swimming hole to evaluate the metal cable.
Yeah, that cable, I did contact Marie Caduto. I'm glad I did, and she was glad I did, because she said, as you saw in her email, she says, because I just noticed that myself for the first time, wondered if I'd missed it before. And she put us in touch with this Todd Manise, who I just wanted to get as many officials involved as possible in case there's some big ugly thing on the end of that cable that's going to need further attention. I asked Lee to go take a look at it and see what he thought. He thinks that the old wooden bridge, maybe Steve you would remember this, or Bill, had some deadheads attached to it.
That's right, it did.
And
Because
that
it started listing. Yeah.
and that that is
What it is.
a deadhead, and he believes that probably the south end of it is just an end that just fell in the river, and then the floods washed it up, and it somehow just speared down into the gravel. So he thought, and we're gonna, if we meet with this Todd, what we could do is just from the parking lot, just put a winch on it and just start tugging on it gently and see what happens. And if one, because he says that south end would be very difficult to cut off, because like you said, if cut it off at the surface, or even if you dig down a couple feet, that doesn't mean it's not going to wash up an end someday and somebody's going to step on it. So if we can get the south end completely up, he said the north end is down buried in the rock, and that can be safely cut off and left there. So it's probably on a, I don't know, maybe they just drilled into a rock and attached it, or who knows what. But so anyway, Lee's idea was let's tug on it and see what it does. Sure. And if it's really taut, then maybe reconsider. He says it's probably less dangerous as it is than if we try to cut that lower end. So anyway, I can, as you saw in Todd's reply, he'd like our road foreman and a couple of us there. So, or maybe that was my idea, and he agreed. But if you don't mind, I'll just set up a time to meet with these guys, and then
Let us know. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
One of us can stay on the top and just, when they're tugging, just make sure that the bridge doesn't tug.
Right. Well, and Lee said already that it's mostly underwater again because of the rain. So I mean,
Right.
we may have missed our opportunity this year. We'll see what happens.
All right. Let's see. New business. Bill, you had.
Yeah, I do. When we started out on this ancient road project, we knew we might, and we did, incur some cost, which I thought would be a little bit south of $300. In fact, it's a little bit north of that. And at the time, we had a private benefactor who was interested in these maps, but that's no longer the case. But I mentioned that a couple of meetings ago with the Historical Society here, would they be interested in the maps when we're finished? The very good, very nice color maps that were provided by Old Maps. Dave Allen over in West Chesterfield.
Right.
And they said they would contribute to the cost. So the total cost is $350. The Historical Society is willing to pay $200 to $250. They haven't made that decision yet. Could the town pick up the other $100 or $150 for the cost of work already done? Or leave me magnificently holding the bag?
That's. You want to vote?
Bag man.
What
Yeah.
what's in our select board budget? We never
Or
spend that.
miscellaneous budget for
We have a small
Yeah,
discretionary budget.
flowers. I could write up some more dog fines or something like that if it would help.
All right.
There it is.
I offered for the
For
Historical
expenses,
Society to
400.
do a program, and they could
You haven't spent much on it.
charge a donation admission, maybe contribute to it, so. They haven't said yes.
Well, I move we
So,
cover.
It's an old book.
Is it? Oh, it is. That's last year's.
Okay. Let's see, on our new one, new page.
I'd second that motion if he's moved to cover this.
Let's see if we have any money for.
Lee's got a little extra in the sand budget.
Yeah, everything comes out of the same
And
budget.
he's not here, so.
Chloride, you can definitely.
Oh, same. So I would move we take it out of our $400 select board or mammoth slush fund.
And I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yes, discussion.
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Again,
Opposed? Seems like the ayes have it.
okay.
And under new business, we have a note here to discuss rescheduling the October 31st meeting, which is Halloween. Some of you guys going trick-or-treating?
Yeah, well, always go to Lori's house.
I have to be home because I have the towns in my house.
Oh, that's right.
Although if we could agree to start early and agree on a termination time so that people can get home before
5
dark.
o'clock.
Oh, 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I could take notes that time. I promised to type them,
Yeah.
if that would help.
Well, I mean, I could do that Thursday. That Tuesday would not work, but the Thursday would if we wanted to move it one day.
I'd rather see us change the time than the day, if we can get away with doing that.
It's a Christian holy day of obligation, you know, Tom Bodett.
I know. You think I didn't go to that silly thing the day
I
after?
think you were an altar boy. That's
No, it
what
was
I
the
think.
day after. It was All Saints Day.
That's right.
Isn't that
So
November
we
3rd?
start at
Yeah,
5.
November. Oh, is that
So
what you
you
meant?
want to
Yeah.
move it to Thursday?
Bill takes the minutes.
Yeah, because I won't be able to.
Okay.
I'll type. I'll bring my computer.
Thank you.
So we're doing it Wednesday at.
Oh, I don't know.
No, just toss it
No, we're just discussing, yeah,
Yeah.
4:30 is even okay? No, 4:30 is not good. I always hate to change the day of a meeting, it's hard enough to keep your schedule straight.
Mhm.
4:30 to 6.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we lose
And
daylight by then?
Well, it starts getting dark right
We
about.
will by
about
then,
5,
yeah.
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 So it'll already be dark,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
So we could be targets.
That's right.
Moving
So,
targets.
yeah, well, we can cut Lori loose, and I'll just
Yeah.
catch up with Rita and the boys over at Lori's house.
You're the best.
Okay, 4:30?
4:30?
As early as you guys wanna make it, I prefer early to changing the date. Don't you, Tom? It's always hard to,
Mm-hmm.
you already know you're gonna be here Wednesday.
Lunchtime? Want to do lunchtime?
I can make lunchtime.
Yeah, actually, I mean, Bill, you're probably the one
I'm
with
stuck, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
What's
Unless you
your-
want to have the meeting in Brattleboro.
So,
Even at 3, I mean, what time, Bill, how early could you get here, Bill? 3:30?
On Wednesday, no, we can have school at 3:20.
Okay.
3:45 I could be here.
let's make it 4.
Okay.
4 o'clock.
4.
So moved.
We don't have to do costumes or anything, right?
What we have
Halloween
sufficient.
candy.
So Bill moved that, and I'll
Yeah.
second the time
All
change.
right.
4 o'clock, 31st.
We'll come as public officials of little or no influence. How's that?
All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Oh, sorry, discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Still in favor.
Okay. Opposed? Seems like the motion has passed unanimously. All right, so any other new business to come before this board?
If you just want to make the next meeting on October 3rd is when the folks from Dutton Pines
Okay?
are going to be here, or from Vermont Department of Parks and Recreation about Dutton Pines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are going to be quite a few people here, so I don't think we'll fit in this room.
All right.
we might also have the community center thing.
Yeah.
And the library people, so.
So I've reserved the Grange, either upstairs or downstairs.
Okay, maybe we'll need to
Yeah.
have the closed circuit televisions brought in.
I didn't do the church because it's the
Next door.
week before
Election?
the Apple Pie Festival.
Oh, the apple
So
pie,
they're gonna
of
be
course.
really busy.
Right, right.
So the Grange is it?
Yep.
Up or down?
Either one. Ruth said it's all ours.
Maybe we have the community center people upstairs and the library people downstairs.
That's a great idea. We can edit this after, right?
Sure thing.
Carefully.
All right, so, I think we need some executive session. Do we?
I was going to call to discuss the legal matter, but after speaking with Lewis today, he thought there's no reason to rush it. And
Okay.
I'm putting together a sort of a memorandum for the board. I've been gathering up a lot of information. So I think there's no rush. If you don't mind me doing that and waiting for Lewis to get back.
Sure.
We'll do it next time. So yeah, October 3rd, that could be a busy meeting. So
We'll rest up before then. Well, there seems as though there's no other business to come before this board, and so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
trying to beat Lewis's best.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second?
Discussion? Are you trying to beat Lewis's?
Well,
This is unprecedented.
Yeah, I'll second.
so, okay, we're adjourned. At what time?
6:45, 36 seconds.
There you go.
Easy, you're a new hero.